Hello and welcome in to another episode of the Fantasy Football Forecast Best Ball. We are coming at you with another draft, and unfortunately we get the 10th pick, but that's what we got to do. So we got another late pick coming for you guys. Hopefully we'll go in the middle here soon. We've had a couple early and a bunch of late drafts now, so hopefully we'll get 6, 7, something like that, coming up here soon. But we see the first 3 picks: Bijan Robinson, Gibbs, and Chase. And I think the next player up is the biggest name in the news today. And, maybe we should get into that a little bit, but Puka has checked himself into rehab. So he still goes forth here. The price is going to change. Everybody's still assuming that he is going to be ready for opening day, but, hopefully he can get through whatever he's going through and be able to lock back in for the season.
100%. And, with the 10th pick, it is nice because that is a space that we can get Amon-Ra, maybe potentially. Justin Jefferson has definitely been creeping up with the Kyler Murray news. I'm curious if you want to go in that direction, if Amon-Ra doesn't fall to us, or what are your thoughts as we get 4 picks away?
Yeah, I'm all for one of these 3 receivers. And Jefferson, I think, as long as Kyler is going to be the quarterback, is going to be great. Now, we saw that Kyler is not great on the deep ball, and we also saw that he did not get Marvin Harrison Jr. going. But I will say Jacoby Brissett took over, and it was Michael Wilson who started going off. So, there's possibly an element to that, but I do like Justin Jefferson quite a bit.
All right. Oh, are you good with Amon-Ra though?
Yeah, still Amon-Ra over Jefferson. Okay, cool. Amon-Ra is the peak consistency and upside, right? 3 straight years of the number 3 wide receiver. Ken Walker going 9 overall is a mistake. I will stand by that all offseason. That is, I get it. Okay, Kansas City running back, super excited. We saw guys in the past do extremely well in the role. The offensive line is a mess. Patrick Mahomes is maybe going to be running, maybe not going to be running. We just don't really know at this point. I don't think Ken Walker should be going 9th, but we are back on the clock, and we'll take that because now we have our choice of one of these 3 great running backs here between Genty, Achane, and Hampton. I personally would take Achane, but I know that you're probably Genty over Achane there.
I think at this point, Achane's like the only offensive weapon in that system. So he's just going to get peppered with targets. We know he's explosive. We know he can go off. I think I've still got Hampton over Genty just because I think with Mike McDaniel, that whole system, the offensive line getting healthy, I'm a little bit more excited about him, but kind of a toss-up at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And we've kind of been in a situation now where we've ended up going round 3, round 4, round 5, like that type of area with a lot of running backs. So getting St. Brown up top, I think is huge. And we'll see how the rest of this draft falls to us here. You see Neighbors go the pick after us. I'm still a little skeptical of Neighbors being picked that high. He's coming off the major injury. I get that Jackson Dart looked good and that he is an absolute target monster. So that's what's driving his price. But I do think that there's a little bit of, I would want to back off at least a touch from Neighbors at that price.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And, we'll see what they end up doing in the draft. If they do go Carnell Tate, there's still that possibility. So I haven't really taken him much, but, I do understand the excitement because if he is back and healthy in week 1 and explosive and they don't go wide receiver in round 1, we know what type of playmaker he is. And, it's funny, I did a draft solo the other day and I had the 12th pick and I was so sick of going RB that I decided to do a bully tight end build and I went McBride and Powers. It was fun for the first 2 picks and then I just ended up hating my team. So don't recommend that, but I guess that's
what happens. Did you go with another tight end? Did you go with another tight end up top too?
No,
you didn't. You didn't go in on like Pitts because that would have been really how you could have got after the group there at tight end.
No, I completely closed that tab off from there. I didn't even want to tempt myself.
Nice. All right, so we're coming up here in 4 picks. Our boring pick of Kyron is still there, but there's a lot of receivers there now that I think are improving in draft stock. So you've got Rashee Rice, who, I don't really know what's going on with him this offseason, but he should be better than wide receiver 15 when all is said and done on a per game basis. Garrett Wilson getting a quarterback improvement with Geno Smith. Now, that's not saying much, but Geno has shown that he can carry a wide receiver. So I wouldn't mind going that direction. And then I'm getting more excited about Ladin Ibuka as we get closer and closer to the season. The new McDaniels offense, I think, is going to do wonders for McConkey. And Ibuka, having Evans leave, I think is just kind of clearing the way for him to take over as the guy.
I'm going to go ahead and take Kyron here just because I think there's more wide receivers that I like coming back. Those first 3 plus Ibuka. And then if need be, we can pivot to Bucky if one of those or if all 3 of those guys are gone.
Yeah, and we'll see here. So Devontae Smith sneaks in there. So I would say Rice or Ibuka. I personally like the safety of Egbuka over the unknown of Rashi Rice. And I get it. When week one rolls around, Rashi Rice is going to be ranked fifth amongst receivers. We didn't have the opportunity to take him, so I get it from that perspective. But the consistency week over week, being a sure thing, never having any issues, that's never been Rice. So, I think seeing it over a full season is when I'll finally get on the Rashi Rice board.
Yeah, that's fair. Ibuka is, like we've said many times before, if his season was flip flopped, he would be going at the 1-2 turn. So I think we're getting a good value there. Obviously, Evans is gone now, so it's going to be he and aging Godwin. McMillan, I think, is a nice sleeper late in drafts. And then, Tez, who's kind of that round 20 dart throw, just because he did show flashes. But I think Ibuka, is going to be the 1 or 2 on this team in targets. We know Baker likes to air it out a ton.
Yeah, definitely. And I think going into his second year, as smart as he is, as good of a player as he is, I think that we can see a huge year 2 jump here. So we see Luther Burden go off. Javonte Williams obviously re-signed with Dallas on a bigger deal. So I think that's a solid pick. Maybe a little rich for my blood there. But then we see, Burden, Flowers, Waddle. I really like that group of receivers. I personally would draft Waddle first now of that group, now that he's in Denver. I did like his setup in Miami, and I do get he has to compete with Cortland Sutton, but I think that offense through the air is going to get significantly better, and that Waddle is going to be a major part of that. And I do think, as much as we put down Bo Nix, it's hard to ignore getting a weapon like Waddle. And so I do think that I would be much more inclined to move Bo Nix up at this point, as I have a lot more confidence in his passing yardage, just because he's got one of the most talented wide receivers on his team now.
Yeah, he's going to get a ton of layup targets. We saw Nix finish back-to-back years of QB7. So, where he's currently going, I have no issue with that value. And, I think the pick of the draft thus far is Bucky Irving at 46. I mean, he's usually going at the 3-4 turn, and definitely surprising to see him fall. Now, looking at this team 3, they've got Chase, London, Nico, Irving, Henderson. There's some serious firepower on team 3 right now. And I think, we've talked about this ad nauseum, where it's like when you have one of those top 4 picks, you just, I don't know, you feel like you have such a head start on the rest of the group. And as much as we love Amon-Ra, as much as I love that pick, it's like, he's going to finish in that 3 to 7 wide receiver range. But, Chase obviously has the ability to win the Triple Crown.
Yeah, and like you said about getting in front, right? Getting Jamar Chase, and then it's just like no matter what you do, it feels like your build turns out good. So when you're able to stack 3 really good wide receivers and then land Bucky at the end of the 4th, it's hard to argue with how good that team is going to look to start. So we're up in 3 picks here. We're looking at David Montgomery. We're looking at DeAndre Swift at running back. It's funny because Montgomery, I feel like, has been going earlier than this. And so maybe the shine on him getting a new team has worn off a little bit, that he's still around here at the end of the 5th round. Or maybe his ADP has just kind of climbed to where he's going now, because I know he was buried in the 30s before the trade. So I do like David Montgomery a lot this year. I think, I've always kind of had him on my teams as much as possible, just because I think he's a solid talent. Now, there's a lot of wide receivers that just went, a couple quarterbacks. And so, David Montgomery, I think, is a slam dunk pick here. I'm a little worried about Scadaboo's injury. I do think that if he was healthy, that he will be better than David Montgomery. But we've just seen so many guys deal with that exact injury and just not be the same until late in this next season. So he could get off to a really slow start. Tyrone Tracy is still there. Now, I'm not suggesting Tyrone Tracy is going to play over him, but there's just different factors there with Scadabo that I just am not picking him at that price.
Yeah, I didn't. The Giants made it seem like they were also in the market for a running back too, which makes me a little bit hesitant. So I do like the Monty pick. I'm hoping that we get Swift here and just kind of build out a very solid running back room. Not to mention, we've got 2 wide receivers that we both really like. So we can, probably go away from the running back position for a little bit. We'll see what the board gives us, 17 picks away. But I think this puts us in a good position for this draft. And one of the things that we've done, over the past couple drafts is, we waited too long on quarterback. So, think about prioritizing some of these guys. Now we are in a good position where we can get the value of Goff, who always finishes top 10 and always is drafted outside of QB 14 or 15, and Baker as well, who I think is going like QB 18 or something right now. So gives us pretty good stack setups. We might have to reach a round or two because a couple times we've thought they're going to fall into our laps and then they don't, and we end up kind of with a trio at the end we don't really care for. But either way, we're in a good position.
Yeah, and I think too this draft has been slow playing quarterback a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
specifically for this draft. Right, some of the drafts there's like 8 or 9 that are off by now, and these guys go around earlier than we're seeing. So I'm hoping that we still end up with a solid quarterback that we like here. And we'll see what falls to us in round 7, because maybe we can even get away with going till round 8. I know you just warned about doing that, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, we see a little run here. Jaden Daniels, really good value there. I think he's in line for a good bounce back. Hurts. I don't know if the reports today were that April Fool's type reports, that he wasn't really a locker room guy. I didn't really follow that closely. But
I
anyways,
didn't take anything I saw online today
yeah.
seriously. There was way too much April Fool's stuff going around. I was just like, all right, putting that down for the day, and we'll see what's real, what falls out tomorrow. I saw
I
way
saw,
too many reports on Puka from other all across outlets, so
yeah.
I knew that one was real. I just stayed off of the social media gotcha
Yeah,
type of
yeah. The first
memes.
time I saw the Puka one, I thought it was fake too. But anyways, so Drake May going here, pick 74, like that value. It is interesting because I think we've talked about this before, where when rankings kind of opened the season, people were pushing May up to like QB2, and in best ball he's around that QB7, QB8 range, which we're a lot more comfortable with, I think. But turning back around, we do have a good group of quarterbacks here. No stacking partners, but love Dak, love Herbert. Dart obviously has a higher range of outcomes, or a different range of outcomes. But what are you thinking as we kind of turn through here?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite quarterback always to draft is Dak Prescott. I feel like he's just perennially undervalued. If CeeDee Lamb's healthy and Pickens is healthy the whole time, I mean, I just can't fathom that he's not going to be a top 5 quarterback. So as long as he stays healthy, um, I feel like he's a pretty easy pick here. If we were going to go receiver, we would probably have gone Sutton there, but I think Dak is an excellent way to start and even possibly solidify our quarterback spot.
Yeah, and that gives us a chance to draft Jake Ferguson later too and get that stack, because Ferg will have his 2 touchdown games here and there. So Sutton's still on the board. You mentioned him
Yeah, I think
earlier.
that's yeah, I think we go there. And I get that Waddle is there now, and Waddle is going to get drafted more aggressively, but the rapport is still there with Sutton. He still was wide receiver 11 last year, and we're getting him as wide receiver 37 there. It's just too low for Sutton, and he's been consistent enough that I think he should be getting drafted more aggressively than this. So I personally feel like he's borderline a cheat code down here. I mean, I would take him over guys that are going in round 6. So for me, I think, if we put together a video of favorite picks in each round, he's easily the one for me in round 8, if and when he gets there.
I like that. I mean, he's still going to be a huge threat in the red zone too, right? Big body wide receiver in the end zone. So I like that pick. Wasn't going to go the Godwin route just because Ibuka is our wide receiver too. I
Yeah.
understand doubling up, later at some points, but I don't want my 2 and 3 being on the same team. So we see Menungai go before Algier. I'm not sure I'm necessarily on board with that, but we'll see kind of what happens with the Arizona running back room. Connor's still there, so is he going to be a great value? We'll see. And we see Romeo Dobbs. Wow, that feels a little early for Dobbs. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little bit more skeptical than folks on him.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that'll be consistent. So if he can earn targets from Drake May, that's what people are after here, right? That
Yeah,
he's going to be the number one there. And even if he does what Stephon Diggs did last year, he can pay this off. And Diggs honestly was not that great last year. He really survived on touchdowns. And we know that Romeo Dobbs can score touchdowns. He's great in the red zone. If nothing else, if he's not going to be a huge target earner, but so I think that there's at least a decent chance that he is Stephon Diggs 2.0 this year.
yeah. And then we see Dobbins go right there. I think, excuse me, Dobbins is someone who I've been targeting quite a bit late. We saw what the roles look like last year. I'm not an RJ Harvey fan. Like as a rusher, I get he's going to have his role. And I get that Dobbins is injury prone, but if we see it start how it did last year, I think he's going to be a really, really good value this year.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's just me because I am an RJ Harvey truther that seeing him go in round 8 just feels like such an overpay. It just feels like you're paying at the wrong time for running back. Either go in earlier on some of these other guys, or wait until later and take more shots. So maybe it's just like I don't feel like there's just that much value in having him on a best ball team like this, at this point.
All right, so our guy Goff is still on the board, 3 picks away. You good with that one if he's there?
Yeah, do we need a receiver? I feel like we only have 3 receivers right now, so we're 2 picks away, but let's take a look.
We do need a receiver, but right now it's QJ, Wandale, Jaden Reed, Worthy, Coker.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Wandale if we were going to go receiver, and then we could talk about how he signed with Tennessee since the last time we did one of these. I don't know. I could see going with Goff too or Laporta because we don't have a tight end yet, but Wandale went, so let's just go with Goff and hope that Laporta gets back to us.
You know what? Let's go Laporta actually, because he's not going to, and then we can back up Goff with Baker for the Lucas stack. Yeah. Because
I like that strategy.
Laporta is one of my favorite values right now. Tight end, 8 or 9?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Getting him a past pick 100. Yeah, I really like that too. And
in looking at the next tight end on the board, this isn't how I have it ranked, but Gadsden tight end 9. It's like there's a lot of guesswork and projection and things that could potentially go wrong there. We know what Laporta's role is in this offense, and look, we got Goff.
Yeah, nice. Oh, I just realized. Yeah, sweet. So that worked out. We got the stack. We got the triple stack there with Detroit, and I really like that.
All right, so we are 6 picks away. Jake Ferguson, who we talked about earlier, that's an interesting one. Then we would have a double stack at tight end. Jordan Mason, I think, is a really good pick. I wouldn't expect him to get to us here. Matthew Golden, I know he's one of your favorite players in this range to target, at least at this point in the offseason. So I'm good going that route as well. We can highlight Jalen McMillan, but what do you think?
Yeah, I'd like to go with receiver, and I think Golden, I mean, I've been suckered into taking him a bunch here. So I just feel like he's by far the best value in terms of upside. I do think that there's an opportunity here where he really could turn into a top 25 wide receiver. So that's why I think at 53, even with Jalen McMillan, I mean, I don't know that I really see that unless there's an injury. And he goes in front of Golden. So, and I get Golden was brutal last year. Like there's no denying that. He was a first round pick. There was so much hype and then he was awful. So anybody who had him is probably so done with him for going into this year. And I think the pundits are too, but we saw him flash in the playoffs and Dobbs is gone now. So I think he's going to be on the field a lot more. And when he was on the field and earning targets, he was doing very well with them. He was open, it wasn't like his route running left him or anything. So I really hope that there's more production coming this season.
So a couple names to think about. Ferg, Chris Rodriguez, I like just because we don't know what the roles are going to be. Aaron Jones, I know has always been one of your favorite players, but you got 5 seconds.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Easy enough. So
yeah, I talked about him earlier. We got that stack with Dak now, and I think that's a great way to go there. Now we can fill out wide receiver, running back, and I think we're all set.
Yeah, I think we can probably ignore tight end for the rest of the way just because we're going to need to fill out that wide receiver room a decent amount. So our guy, Jonathan Brooks, he's starting to rise up a little bit, and he's going to be a name that's going to catch a lot of steam. So we're at 50% exposure on Brooks. So barring any step backs, not going to be good for us, but just betting on the talent, betting on the situation. Chuba, I know he's a coach's guy. I know he's a locker room guy. I know he's, a solid professional, but the ceiling of Brooks is just so much higher than what Chuba provides.
Yeah. And 2 years ago when Chuba kind of took over and was awesome, I was much more concerned, but then we saw Chuba lose his job to Rico Dowdle this year. And that I feel like opened the door up in a way for me with Jonathan Brooks, that if he does look right in training camp, I think he's going to be the starter. And I think we're going to have a situation where he's going to be ranked as a top 30, maybe pushing 25 running backs as we get into the end of August. So having that glaring of a value down at 150, I feel like just makes it too easy of a pick. I'm honestly surprised that more people aren't on Jonathan Brooks, to be honest. Like he was the number 1 running back recruit coming in 2 years ago. He was coming off an ACL, so he fell to the second round, but he would not have if he was
Yeah.
healthy. And, he was just an absolute monster. And he's still only 22 years old. Like, he was super young when he got drafted at 20. And
Yeah.
so it's not like this RJ Harvey thing where he got hurt for his first couple of years and now he's 25 or 26. Like, if they were the same age as rookies, he's not. He's so young. And I just think that he can be super good if he can stay on the field. So I just think the sky's the limit here. And I don't understand the 150 ADP at all.
And it's weird because best ball, and especially people that are doing best ball in March and April, are usually the audience that like really elevates these guys, right?
Yeah.
Versus like
Yep.
you look at ESPN rankings at the end of August and it's like, okay, they have a guy like him pushed way down because they don't pay attention to anything. But like this is
Yeah.
usually the group where it's like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes a little bit. So I'm surprised too. Again, I think
Yeah.
he will move up. So
Oh, we spent so much time hyping him, and then he goes with one pick before us. Well, maybe maybe we're moving the needle a little bit here. So I think that there's a couple different players here that we could go with, and I think maybe James Conner is my favorite. He should be the starter as long as he's healthy to start the year, and that could get you off to a quick start at this point in the draft. Definitely not as promising as Jonathan Brooks, but I do think that there's some value there still with James Conner.
he's top 12 when he's on the field. So I'm good with that.
Right, moving down the board now, we're up in 3 picks here, and man, there's just nothing that inspiring. I think, there was a report today that Brandon Ayuk, that the 49ers might actually be trying to bring him back and might actually be considering trying to keep him in the building. If that's the case, I'm not sure what to expect, honestly, but I am kind of hoping he moves on. Jerry Jeudy just doesn't inspire any confidence, and unless you want to go, Tracy or Marks or Pacheco or whatever, I think
Not
Ayuk
really.
is a fine pick. Yeah,
Yeah, I would just at least bet on the talent in this position.
yeah,
So
yeah, and we know Brandon Ayuk can be very, very productive, right? So we just don't know where he's at health wise. Just not showing up is a very strange thing. So we're not sure how the knee is healing. We're not sure if he's ever going to play football again, honestly. Like, that's kind of the risk here, but that's why
yeah,
he's priced the way he is. I mean, if those concerns weren't there, he's a 4th round pick. So I think at this point in the draft, if, he does end up playing, that's going to be a huge hit.
people love Isaac Tesla, man. I I just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think there's enough
There's
room for
just
him still.
right. Like I understand
He's
him.
5th is the thing, right? Or 6th even, in terms of target getters. And so, what did he have last year? 15 targets, but he scored 6 or 7 touchdowns. Obviously, the
Yeah,
advanced metrics are going to be off the charts. Okay. That's not really what we're after here with 15 targets, or 20 targets, whatever it was.
touchdown to
So,
target ratios, the highest we've
yeah, I
ever
mean,
seen.
all of his,
The only way
all,
for it
yeah,
to go is up.
yeah, 6 touchdowns on 8 end zone targets, and like all at the end of the game, I feel like. So, I get that there's talent there. I get he's on a good team, but it's just too early for somebody that, even in games that he does go off and he scores a touchdown, might not even make your lineup. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's what 6.5 points if it's a 1 yard touchdown. Like
yeah, I mean, even if it's a 20 yarder, it's
yeah.
still only
No,
9. So,
I get
he's
what
got to
you're.
do something else. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's
There
do a
goes
quick.
Pacheco. Like, yeah. What do you
Yeah,
marks? Oh, yeah. You want to do a quick rundown?
quick roster review. So Dak, Goff, we're very happy about that. Feeling good about our running back room here. Wide receiver, we definitely have some holes to fill, and then tight end. Really excited about that stack because even in redraft, you know, I'm not a huge proponent of stacking, but at the tight end position, I'm much more inclined to do it just because usually, their value comes from touchdowns. So, we have a few picks left here, and looking at the board, Tyreek Hill. I mean, do we double up with the uncertainty of he and Ayuk and just kind of go all in? Trey Harris is an interesting one. I know you were higher on him coming out of college than I was, but he did show some flashes, and I don't know. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I don't think Trey Harris is going to get on the field enough. I do think that
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill is very interesting, except for I still am struggling again with his injury. I don't think it's going to be an issue where like he doesn't sign and doesn't have a team and isn't playing or whatever. I think it's going to be that the injury is going to keep him off the field and probably start on PUP. So, over the second half of the year, he could be helpful if he's in the right situation. So, I mean, I might lean that way just because I feel like he could be a difference maker when we need him more. I do think Christian Kirk is in a decent spot too. I mean, I never thought I'd be saying that because he was like full court avoid. But if the 49ers don't sign anybody else, then this is going to get interesting really quick. And we know
Mhm.
Purdy's super accurate. So,
Yeah.
close, easy line, easy targets. I think Christian Kirk could be in an interesting spot. So I don't hate that pick.
Yeah, another guy too, Malik Washington is what the de facto wide receiver one at this point
Yeah,
for
I
Miami.
mean that's
They have
gonna change. So
they have
I am
Tolbert
not
too,
that
right? Like
interested. Yeah.
right? Is Jalen Tolbert. So that's someone maybe we look to take like round 20 or something. But we are 2 picks away, so we do have a little bit better options if you want to call it that. The other B Robinson, Tucker, who's probably going to get the goal line work, and then Handcuff and Tank Bigsby. But I think I'm going to go Washington here if you're good with that.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
I don't think Washington is that good. So the
Yeah.
problem is he's going to have to get a lot of targets, a la Wandale Robinson, to hit in any sort of fantasy way, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that the touchdown scoring chops are there. He's a lot of really close to the line of scrimmage, yak type of players. So unless he shows anything down the field, I think he is going to be in a unique position where his role isn't going to change regardless of the personnel around him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think he's only like 5'7", 5'8". So yeah, he's not all of a sudden going to
Yeah.
be a big downfield outside wide receiver. Mooney's an interesting one here too. Now that he's with the Giants, I mean, last year was obviously a massive disappointment. He had the shoulder injury, but he was always playing too. So we'll see what happens. And what we mentioned with Neighbors early on is we don't know if they're going to grab a high profile wide receiver in the draft. Look at this trio of tight ends that goes here for Baby Pigeon: Juwan Johnson, T.J. Hawkinson, Kate Otten, and they have Gadsden. Interesting.
Yeah, so just
Interesting.
like throwing as many tight ends at the wall as they can, and maybe they use
Yeah.
them as a flex some weeks or something. I don't know.
CMC. That's a good value on Hampton though. Tet, Burden. God, this team could be absolutely horrible. Corin, Gadsden, Shuck, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter,
Okay.
that's just way too high for the
Okay.
risk of him not playing.
Not playing any or very little wide receiver.
Yeah. What do you think of Alvin Kamara going in round 16 there? Obviously, he's going to be playing behind Travis Etienne now, and maybe he loses interest. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe Etienne gets hurt and he gets,
Yeah.
a little bit of taste of the glory days. What do you think of Kamara? I mean, I somebody I've never been able to quit, so I feel like he's going to end up on almost all of my teams down there.
Yeah. I haven't really taken him just due to the uncertainty, and I think he's going lower now after the addition of ETN. But um, there was also the possibility that he retires was kind of something that was in my head too. And I don't know. I don't know exactly what his contract situation is. I don't think he would necessarily be like a cut candidate. But then if he does, would he go to join Sean Payton in Denver and Crater RJ Harvey's role? Hard to say. There's just too much in flux for me to take him right now. But I get the idea. All right. So looking back at our board here, we did just add a few wide receivers. Looking back at the running back room, if we want to go in just like from a pure talent and unknown perspective, I'm good with Nick Singleton.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, and I think he's definitely being slept on in the NFL draft process. So I hope he doesn't end up like Monungai last year, going in round
Mm,
7 for somebody who we liked a lot better. But the running back class is kind of thin this year, so I think there's a chance, anyways, that he's a 4th round pick. So hopefully he lands somewhere where they invest more than nothing into him, and he can get a legitimate chance to play.
I like that, and I think with his skill set, given the opportunity, if he does kind of break out, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, obviously." Like I remember how good this guy was and how high profile prospect he was. So I definitely like
Yeah.
him as a dart throw here. Now looking back, I think we have 3 picks left, right? So definitely still need some wide receivers. Pat Bryant, he's been falling. Um, Elijah Surratt, Indiana, national
Yeah,
champions.
I know you like him. I mean, we could go with another rookie. That's fine with me. If you
All
want to
right,
take a shot, I don't know. I normally would take Pat Bryant there so easily, but then they just got Waddle, so he's
that's what
basically
I
off the
mean.
board.
Yeah, it's
So
like
yeah,
that's the problem. And then you look at Hollywood there. It's like okay, I
he's not even going to
guess
play. Yeah,
right.
like
And then
yeah,
Zachariah Branch, like I don't know. I loved him coming out of high school, and then I don't know, he wasn't great at SC, and then Georgia only threw him screens. So I know Mel Kiper has him as like his wide receiver 3 or something, but I just can't get behind that. And he's someone I was like thoroughly rooting for to be successful in college.
Yeah, maybe the name we should have gone back to is Devon Vele, our star player.
Oh, we'll still get him.
So we could still get
People,
him later. I
yeah,
still
we can
still
still
don't
get him late. I
understand
think
that.
we're still 16 picks away. I think that's going to be
People
good.
forget that they spent this year's fourth round pick to trade for
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
They're going to use him and he flashed. It's so funny. I don't
Yeah,
understand that one either. Why the
he's
needle's not
the
moving on that.
yeah. If we do our favorite picks, like you said, and we make it all the way to round 20, he's gonna be the star of the show.
Yeah, I mean we should do like our top 5 favorite picks and then just have like too early one or
Yeah, I'd like that.
too early, too middle, and then Vele late.
I think that's better actually, because then we can kind of banter back and forth more
Yeah.
on a lot of these guys. So
Yeah, we can give each
otherwise we'll
guy,
end up
4 or 5 minutes.
we'll end up going 2 hours if we do 20 rounds.
Yeah, seriously. So I think we should give Vele here. He is moving up the board a little bit. Trey Benson, he's an interesting one now. I mean, now that they kind of blocked him, I don't even know if he's going to get a chance to play anymore now. And
Yeah.
so RIP all the dynasty shares of Trey Benson that anybody had accumulated. So
Yep.
it's disappointing to see. He actually his ADP reacted instantly. Look at that RB 65. He's
Well,
just completely gone.
I think a lot of that too is, even if Connor was going to be the starter before they brought in Algier, everyone knows Connor is a health risk, where Algier is just, stays healthier, I think too, and then adds that second body. So yeah, he's definitely in a free fall, probably not worth a draft pick. So crossing our fingers for Vele here. Now, do you want to get that 7th running back, assuming we take Vele? I don't know, because Gordon isn't really the handcuff to Achan. It seems like Jalen Wright is, at least from what we saw last year. Dig a little bit
Yeah, I
deeper
mean
here
that
too.
could change again in camp this year, but yeah, I mean I kind of think it's right still. Jadon Blue, I mean we got to see him get a start, which was wild that he played as well as he did and didn't
So
get
good.
used all year long. They insisted they insisted on using Miles Sanders, but Miles Sanders did okay, in terms of what he did with his usage. So I could see Blue getting that role this year.
Okay, I'm good with that. And
Dang, Vele
then
went. So we got to remember, we got to get
I
Vele
know,
around 18 now.
yeah, he's moving up, and I think I have a lot to do with his ADP moving up, because there's been times where I've taken him in like round 16 when I'm like, I tried like ultra zero wide receiver and didn't take one until round 10. Don't do that.
Yeah, dude, this just in. Your wide receivers are going to be horrible.
Create unique builds, and I was like, wow, my team sucks. $10 down the drain. All right, we got our last pick here. Kyle Williams, I don't know if he's going to get on the field. Tez, kind of the same issue. We don't have Baker, so I'm less inclined for that stack. Who else? Bateman, Knoll, Wicks, Tolbert, I guess. We already have
Buddy
Washington.
strategy there.
Yeah. Yeah. Jahan Dotson
Keon
with
Coleman.
Atlanta.
Still wide receiver 1 in Buffalo, right?
No, they have DJ Moore.
They have anybody else too.
All right, let's go buddy strategy. Let's hope Miami builds through the trenches, ignores wide receiver this year, and we end up with 1 and 2, and Malik Willis is decent enough. So why don't you run us through the team and kind of give your thoughts on the build and the players?
Yeah, so we ended up going 2-7-9-2, but I do think Dak and Goff at quarterback is awesome for where we got them to have
Yeah.
in the middle rounds, really, to get 2 guys that we're pretty confident are going to finish in the top 10 and that both have boom weeks relatively frequently. I think it's Goff is just the number 1 most slept on quarterback, and to be able to get him where we did, I think really rounds out the position nicely. Looking at down to the running backs, I think we did very good early, right? We got our first four super quick, and
Yeah.
Achan, Kyron, Montgomery, and Swift. We have a ton of upside with Achan, but then also a lot of floor and safety with Kyron, Monty, and Swift. And obviously they have some upside as well for multiple touchdowns any given week. So I do think that the running backs were good. We circled it out with James Conner, who, hit or miss with health. Nicholas Singleton, we'll see where he lands in blue, who's probably going to be relegated to a backup role. But if he does hit big on any given play, he could be useful. And if Javonte gets hurt in front of him, he showed that he can be decent in a workhorse role in week 18 last year. Our wide receivers, also, I think we did pretty good here. This is definitely our weakest position, in my opinion, but we do have Amon-Ra, Emeka Egbuka up top. A lot of youth. They should be relatively consistent, so I do think that that could work out well. Cortland Sutton, we don't know what the situation is going to be with him and Waddle, but I do still have hope that he can be, maybe not wide receiver 11, but still in the top 25 to 30 wide receiver range in there, and that Bo Nix can support both of those receivers. And then we have Matthew Golden. I just can't quit him. I do think that there's going to be an improved role here. And then a lot of dart throws, right? We got Brandon Ayuk. Hopefully he's healthy and able to play. Christian Kirk, maybe his situation in San Francisco is better than we're expecting. Malik Washington and Jalen Tolbert, kind of just because Miami has nobody right now. So I think they're worth taking a shot on. And then Surratt, making sure we get some upside there with a rookie. And then the tight ends speak for themselves. We were able to stack them with the quarterbacks, and getting Laporta, I think, is the best value currently at tight end. He is just 1 year removed from being the number one overall tight end, and he had a good second half. So I do think that Laporta is a great value currently at 100, and I think that you should be trying to get him everywhere. All right. With that, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.